How many of you were not here this morning? Okay, welcome. So you missed a good show. Mike is a bit of a character and does a really good job of making you feel comfortable and welcome. So with a show of hands, how many of you are more concerned about building membership base? A couple of you? Most of you? Okay. And then how about companies building a community? Okay. Can we agree they're pretty much the same thing?
Pretty much.
I want business, I want prospects. You know, Mike and I are two of the top most connected people on LinkedIn, and when you put our networks together, it's hard to beat. Even the top guy on LinkedIn has close to 60,000 people. LinkedIn hasn't made them delete people, but someday he'll be down under the limit again. But the thing is that people ask us, should I connect to people I don't know? And I say, I don't know. Do I prospect to people I don't know? All the time, right? LinkedIn is a networking environment, and it's a professional networking environment. In fact, even yesterday at PivotCon, one of the premier social media conferences in the country every year, somebody got up on stage and talked about social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the minor players like G+, and not even a mention of LinkedIn. And several people raised their hand, how about LinkedIn? It's a social network, right? And they're doing media. LinkedIn News Today. The cool thing is, you don't really have to know technology very well if you know people. If you're a good networker and you provide good value to your members, you provide value add to your customers, you're going to do okay on social media. After today, what I'm going to do, hopefully, is connect the dots for you so that you see where, when you talk to somebody, maybe you go out for lunch and you're in a crowded restaurant and you talk about business. There are people sitting at tables next to you, might overhear the conversation. Have you ever had anybody turn around in any kind of environment and say, pardon me, I overheard you say, right? That's exactly what happens on LinkedIn. You post a status update, or you're in a group and you respond to somebody in the group and somebody else hears what you said. Sure, it's written, it's asynchronous communication, but they still sort of hear it. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And the clicker's working. Good. We are not in any way associated with LinkedIn, although I'm part of their company page beta group, and we're on their beta group for groups. I have to think every time I try and say that one out loud. But aside from having a congenial relationship with LinkedIn now, and they did sponsor our very first training, Mike's very first training back in 2006, we work with the user community. We're not here to tell you where to point and click. We have those lessons online for you. I'm here to tell you how it works. So I'm figuring that y'all are pretty smart individuals, and we're just going to go with that. If you're not really smart, that's okay. Don't tell me. I'm just going to go with you all. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So we've been doing this a long time, 500 plus trainings. We've both got 500 between us and our team. We've got over 500, whatever that bottom word says. It's going to be a long afternoon. We are in the top most connected individuals. We've both twice been named to the Forbes magazine top 50 social media power influencers. I'm the #9 woman on the list. And we both got maxed out at 30,000 connections on Twitter. I have over 104,000, 103,000 people following my main account, which is my personal account on Twitter. We've got 2 accounts each, one for Lori Ruff and one for LinkedIn Diva. You know why? Was I being, like I really want to overwork, or was I don't want somebody to steal my handle? If my moniker is, as a speaker, the LinkedIn Diva, I better go grab that name everywhere I possibly can. That means more work. So if you want to be a speaker, username instead of something cool like LinkedIn Diva. So we've written books. We've been involved in writing books. Jeffrey Gitomer is a top sales trainer in the country, and did a book on social media and knew well enough that he didn't know well enough. Right, so he recruited the top people in each of their fields to do it. We've got a networking for nerds, for college students, ebooks. We've got an online platform we're going to give you all access to this afternoon. I'll call it a door prize. I am a Microsoft certified master instructor. So what do you all think? If you think of me and you think of you need help with Microsoft, what do you think? Anybody?
You're going to be able to help?
I'm going to be able to help you. Why? I have not told you anything about my skills. Certified. Right? That's
You're bona fide.
I'm bona fide. I did. I had to pass some certain requirements to prove that I knew what I said I knew. And so it was really interesting. Once I was a regional trainer, I was based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked from Atlanta to DC. That was my territory. And once I got that certification, people stopped asking me if I knew this. And they started introducing me as Lori Ruff, she's certified, and so we know that she knows her stuff. So listen in, right? And that's really what LinkedIn will do for each of us. We can put our professional credentials out there. It's not just a resume. You don't want just that bulleted list of your accomplishments and all the numbers. You want a paragraph. You want to talk about it in conversational style. If I'm talking to you today, these are the kinds of things I'll say on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, when you read our LinkedIn summaries, you're going to believe that you just met us. Because I'm not only saying in my summary, you know, this is what I want to happen for my professional life. I'm telling you who I am, what I'm passionate about, how I can help you, why I believe I can help you. I put in my credentials, and then I use the rest of the profile to back it up. I list my honors, I list my education, I list the jobs that I've had, the nonprofit positions that I've held. And frankly, you're going to see two places on my profile, nonprofit positions. One in experience, because I can get recommendations there, and one under volunteer experience, because it was a volunteer experience. And someday they'll wake up and they will allow you to get recommendations on your volunteer experience. Makes sense. So, I've been talking about this a long time. That is, look how short my hair is. Oh my God. That was a few years ago. And we were telling people about LinkedIn. And all of a sudden, people are figuring out, I really better get a hold of this. It's not too late to grab the tiger by the tail and take advantage of it, because people are still out there. Frankly, there are people who have profile views of less than some number per 3 days that were in the top 10% of most profile views in 2012. Now I was in the top 1%. LinkedIn sent out the message to people in the top 5%, and they sent out to people in the top 10%. You know what that means? If you can get your profile views above so many per 3 days, you could be in the top 10% too. It's that easy. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm going to tell you why it's important. I had a really cool motorcycle. Anybody here on bikes? All right then. Yamaha V-Star Custom. I died on the way to the hospital. I'm a walking statistic, I swear to God. I was 3.4 miles from my house. I was 1.5 miles from my destination, chiropractor visit. According to the ambulance bill, I was 5.0 miles from the hospital. The bike came after me. You do not want your bike to come after you, but I went over the handlebars anyway, like an idiot. Flew and slid. I had a full face helmet on, or I would either not be here or not be pretty today, because it was gravel right across my face. And thankfully I had my helmet shut, and my sound is on. So keep your phones on, but just go ahead and silence them. That way you can tweet anything insightful that you think I might say, if I happen to say anything insightful. If I don't, well, you know, at least we'll have fun. Okay, so, you know, life changed though. Have any of you had an opportunity to kind of have a little bit of a start over moment? You lost a good job and you thought, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Right, and you get to recreate your life. Remember I said I was based out of Charlotte and I traveled between Atlanta and DC? And I was getting a little bit bored of traveling between Atlanta and DC. I had books on tape, I had music CDs, I had all kinds of things, and I put 100,000 miles on my truck between Atlanta and DC. And I wanted to see the rest of the world. Well, I had that motorcycle wreck. And I came back. I'd already joined LinkedIn. I'd already started building my network and working with people. When I came back, I had an offer. I was talking about, I was doing a lot of work on cultural fit. Hiring employees for cultural fit, because you can train skills, you cannot train attitude, and you can't train personality. And God help you if you hire somebody who's the wrong fit, because they will make everybody else in your company miserable. But this company in Waco, Texas said, well, let's hire Lori. So they reached out to me, and I said, you know, I just got back from the hospital. I've been out of work for 6 months. I've lost my company. I'm trying to get started. I really can't afford to come to Waco, Texas. Now I'm an idiot, right? So he goes, Lori, epiphany moment coming up here. If I want to hire you to come and speak to my people, I will not only pay you to do it, I will fly you out here, put you up in a hotel, and even feed you while you're here. And I said, oh my gosh, I had never thought of that before. What have I been missing? So I went to Waco, Texas, and I got back, and I immediately got on LinkedIn and started looking at other companies and people, actually people, because there weren't company pages back then, that would hire me to come speak and train for their conference or for their company. I went to Halifax, Nova Scotia, I went to Monterey, Mexico, Denver, Colorado was on my list, And I sorted by number of connections because at that time, there were a lot of people on LinkedIn who really weren't on LinkedIn. They'd been invited and they started a profile and that was it. And I figured if somebody had a lot of connections, they'd be active on the platform. Now, having said that, I wasn't building my own very actively. When I met Mike, I had 187 connections. And he got to 30,000 before I did, but I got there faster. of course he trained me.
I learned a few things and shared my knowledge.
He did. So I'm just a little competitive. But I join groups on LinkedIn, not just for business, but for personal reasons. When I'm at that lunch table and I'm having a business lunch, do you think that the only topic of conversation is business? Or do I, frankly, we were in Orlando, was it Orlando or San Diego? San Diego. And I mentioned at lunch before our afternoon, I said, anybody like Mustangs? And our client pulls his wallet out, or cell phone, both. He pulled his wallet out. He's got a picture of his car. He's got a 67 Mustang. I said, no, Joe, really? I said, 67's my year. I have Sally. You know what that means? Mustang Sally? I called her Sally because she came with a toolbox. That's when I stopped wearing skirts. Right? You should be wearing more professional clothes to work. I should be wearing something that can get me into the car and back out again without getting honked at. Stop making honked at me. I never got that one. But I mean, that's the thing. If I say in my profile, and I do, that I like Mustangs, and I use one of my 50 available groups to join the Mustang Enthusiast Club, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and people are going to believe me. If my profile is consistent with the things that I say I'm passionate about and the things that I say I enjoy, and they see that in different areas, that consistency builds trust. And so first lesson of the day, every single profile you have out online, everywhere you are online, you need to have a consistent message. And what Mike did, and I thought he was stupid at the time, but I didn't tell him, he took all of our social profiles, went and got screenshots, pasted it in a Word document, and printed them out and laid them, and I mean, he laid them. He put up tables to lay them end to end, and he said, we look like crap online. But this is us, and this is less than 2 years ago. We've been doing this for a while. We set up social profiles, and on EE People, that's for electrical engineers. Do you think I have any interest in being on EE People other than the fact that they paid me to teach them how to use it? And I'm still there from 4 years ago, and we've changed our conversation a little bit. So what we did was get that visual and align it so that we looked consistent, so no matter where people found us, that consistency would be there and the story would be the same. Now, frankly, that's what you got to do for your members too. If you're a member organization, we have a radio show, Rock the World with LinkedIn on webmasterradio.fm. So we got the radio station up on LinkedIn with a company page. We put a position on our profiles as radio hosts with webmasterradio.fm, connected to their company page. Our radio show is on there, and it's frankly one of the top recommended shows on their company page. And shouldn't it be, right? It should be. So, and all I had to do was ask a few people as I interviewed them, would you mind doing a recommendation for the show? 3 or 4 people said yes. And that's really all it takes to be at the top is 3 or 4 people. I'm getting in gear, I've got my VA working on it, but hey, you all get a door prize today. Anybody happy about that?
Yay.
Excellent. So make sure that Glenn has your name, email address, because it is that, LinkedIn training. So it's going to be the how-tos, where to point and click, okay? That's going to be fun. So we don't have to worry about that. Do you think I can cover this much in, how much time do we have left? Oh, jeez, okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, let's just get on with it. LinkedIn user history. There has been a lot of growth. Now, frankly, LinkedIn's got 235 million members. Who's keeping count, right? Facebook's got 1 billion. LinkedIn is more important. We're all in the room. Anybody B2C? A couple of you? And you know that, what's your B2C business?
We sell personal insurance along with business insurance, so.
Okay, so you want to be on LinkedIn for sure. Okay, and how about you?
Financial planning.
Financial planning?
Yeah, financial planning.
And you know the demographics?
Nick, I took your space.
Yeah.
The demographics
I hope,
on-
you know.
on the-
Chair right over here, buddy.
There's the demographics of people on LinkedIn still, even though they're now allowing students to come on LinkedIn, is 108,000. A couple of years ago, average income was 109,000. It's only dropped to 108 because there's a lot broad growth on LinkedIn. One of the fastest growing at the moment is college students in financial services, because financial services companies have finally figured out their compliance and how to do this without it seeming like advertising. So when LinkedIn hit 1 million users in 2005, now we're at 225,000 a couple months ago, 50% annual growth. They've been featured in Forbes and Fortune magazine in the same month. Reid Hoffman was smart and hired a CEO, right? When we are dealing with a startup company, a lot of times the biggest mistake they make is not hiring somebody to take the reins who's brilliant at running companies, and Jeff Weiner is brilliant at running companies. Do you wish you had invested in LinkedIn stock or Facebook stock? Let's talk about how you look. So for those of you that were here this morning, Mike covered this really well, but what I'm going to say is that consistency thing that I talked about is important. You don't want to have your profile written in the third person. Why? Anybody want to guess? It's impersonal, right? You want to write your profile in first person. I, Lori Ruff, the LinkedIn Diva, am called by my fans to be the LinkedIn Diva. I don't say I don't work for LinkedIn, and I talk about who I am and what I can do for you, and it's a conversation. It's more personal, right? When you walk up to somebody at a chamber after hours, do you start talking to them in third person and hand them a brochure? If you don't, unless you put a bag over your head, it will not work. Frankly, it doesn't work with bag over your head either, but at least you look smarter. So, the connections that you make, the things that you do, anybody write a book or worked on a project, got a patent, any kind of things that you've collaborated on with a team? Anybody? Okay? When you put that stuff in your LinkedIn profile, so say you and I worked on a project together, and you put that in your profile, and it asks you, who else worked on this project with you? Who else authored this book with you? Who else got this award with you? And you link to my profile, you say I worked on it with you, that's a link between our profiles, and it tightens our social graph. Right? Now think about it. I'm going to throw a net out to LinkedIn and try and grab as many people as I can. And I'm going to throw a net out to Twitter and grab as many people as I can. I'm going to build out my profile and grab as many people as I can. Now what I do when I mention you in my profile is I'm building a web between two of those things, between my profile and my project, and you are not part of my social graph. So, you know that thing on the side that says, people have also viewed this profile? You're part of my social graph. When they see that you recommended me on LinkedIn, you become part of my social graph. Everybody that lands on your profile has a really good opportunity of finding mine. And frankly, since I'm so well trafficked, didn't count that. Let me find another way to say that one. Since my profile receives a lot of traffic on LinkedIn, I show up really high in the search. So frankly, it's really good when somebody connects to us because you get a lot of traffic from us, right? If somebody looks, and they do, read through my entire profile to get down to the very bottom, the last position has me as a community theater actress so that I've got a place to put the common misspellings of my name. Now Mike said I should do that, and I said I should, and how hard is it to spell Lori? And he said, well, how many ways are there to spell it? And I said, I'll find this. I thought it's easy. My mom gave me the easy way, L-O-R-I. I don't know if she just didn't have confidence when I was born. I didn't learn how to spell. She named me after her best friend, who was L-A-U-R-I-E. I said, why didn't you, connect the dots here for me? You spelled it differently. And she said, I wanted life to be easy for you. All right, so this is the graph. Everywhere you can be connected. When we have our profile, our positions, I mentioned the radio host. We're now connected to the webmasterradio.fm webpage, company page on LinkedIn. And it does drive traffic, right? When I came down with rheumatoid arthritis 3 years ago, frankly, there was a couple month period there that I was not interested in LinkedIn at all. I just didn't care. I was too busy hurting and wondering what the heck was going on and how I was hurting myself all the time. And so, you know what? Traffic on my profile plummeted. And frankly, my primary caregiver is over there whispering in somebody's ear, you are getting in trouble, dude. Caught, red-handed. He wasn't interested, he was still interested in LinkedIn, but he was taking care of me, so traffic to his profile went down because we weren't as active. Guess what happened to our company page? The traffic went down, and it literally mirrored the decline in traffic in ours. So therefore, I can deduce, or I can infer from that if I am active on LinkedIn, not only am I receiving benefit from that, but our company is as well. And so is webmasterradio.fm's profile. company page. So if your employees are on LinkedIn, you've got more opportunity for people to find your company page. Now, for your membership, if you have a membership association and you have a board of directors or you have committees, your committee leaders and your board of directors should be on LinkedIn and listed as a position on their profile so that it will enhance their credibility because they're seen as leaders in their community, and it drives more traffic back to your company page on LinkedIn, right? So it works both ways. People might look at the Noonan County Chamber and say, well, who's running the place? I want to see. You know, not just the employees, but who's on the board of directors and who's running the membership committee and the Oktoberfest committee and the Small Business of the Year committee, right? So the credibility factor works both ways, and that social graph tightens both ways. And these are recommendations. Mike spoke about that this morning, but I'll just reiterate. A great way to get a great recommendation is to give somebody else that you've worked on a project with a great recommendation about that project. And I say the project because you want to recommend their work, not them. The written recommendations should be specific. It should include numbers. Mike rolled out a 10-city rollout on the telecom project, and we got it done under budget and in time because of his help. It was essential to the success of the project. That's much more effective than, I worked with Mike once on a project and it went great. Right? Exactly.
Or
So
she
what
looks good in
happens-
red, or
Right,
Something
right.
like that.
I do look good in red. He doesn't like the orange, but you know, that's what I pack, so he's out of luck. So I could buy another shirt, but I have so many more at home.
I like you best in Guns N' Roses, or.
I have a Guns N' Roses
something,
t-shirt,
right?
not with me though, it's hanging up, it's in Minnesota. I'll get back there someday. So the thing is, if you recommend somebody, LinkedIn turns around, as soon as they accept the recommendation, it says return the favor. Now what are they gonna do? They're gonna probably return the favor. Now we have people recommend us and say we're great speakers or we're great trainers, and I can't really recommend you as part of the audience. Wow, they listened well. Let me just get past that one. This is the profile in 2006. This is what I saw when I saw Mike O'Neill. And notice he has his email address and his name field. You know that's a violation of the end user license agreement. The one violation, one of two, that we have found that will get your profile deleted from LinkedIn. So if anybody tells you to put your phone number, your email address, your keywords, anything at all other than your name and letter credentials, don't listen to anything else they have to say because they will get you in trouble. Now we love to walk up to the edge, and frankly I've fallen off a couple times. Last October of 2011 I was suspended from LinkedIn for 30 days because I refused to take the word LinkedIn out of my profile, and I told them they could kiss my butt, and they suspended my profile, and I complained to the Better Business Bureau, and the guy in charge of privacy and compliance emailed and said, you know, what's the problem? And I frankly told him, and they gave me my account back and a refund for the 19 or 18 days that I was suspended. So that's being said, just because there's a behemoth doesn't mean you can't cause a little stir, right? So if you feel like you need to cause a little stir, you'll use your social value, your social assets to help you cause that stir. But even then, you know, it wasn't bad. President, Integrated Alliances, business networking expert, current, he had 2 positions. This is what it looks like now. And frankly, it looks a lot better. He's got a cute smile going on there. He's got a little red box, the Turner box around his profile. Why? The eye is attracted to red. Right? Now red is not my favorite color, but my eye is always attracted to red. And so it just draws attention. Now if he shows up in a search result, that's his digital footprint right there. So it's going to be attractive. If you have a picture versus not having a picture, LinkedIn's own studies show that you are 40 times, not 40% more, but 40 times more likely to be selected from a list if you have a picture. Even if it's a bad picture, well, you know, even if it's an okay picture, put it up there, right? And we can do it with the phone app, right on the LinkedIn app. Snap a picture, upload it right from your phone or smart device. So let's talk about how your company looks, because credibility is everything. I don't want to be a member of an association. I don't want to do business with a company that hadn't got their crap together, right? Mm-hmm. So how you look and how your company looks is really critical. Now, how many of you have people who have LinkedIn profiles that either work for your company or are members of your association and you wish that they weren't connected to you? Okay, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to talk about profile templates in a moment, and I moved the slide, and I completely forgot that I moved it because I was going to talk about it later. But we will talk about profile templates, and it'll make sense. Who you know and who they know is really where the power of LinkedIn is, and that's why it was created. PayPal executives got together and said, I know you, I know you, I know you, but together we have these networks. Now, who else do you know? Who else do you know, right? And so they created LinkedIn at the time with 4 levels, Steve, now with 3, so that I can tap into your network, and a trusted network is what they were looking for. They didn't realize that people like you would come along. And so they really trust, so the people who are connected to you need to look good too. If somebody sends me a recommendation and there's a typo in it, I send it back to them and I say, this is going to be on my profile for a long time. I thought you might want to correct the typo. I really want you to look as good as you're trying to help me look. Nobody's ever felt offended by that. I've done a search on LinkedIn. A friend of ours in Boston, Patrick O'Malley, did this, and I thought that was a good idea. I'm going to steal it. So I started doing searches for Chief Executive Officer with Chief spelled wrong. You know, there are people out there, CEOs, that have Chief Executive Officer spelled wrong, and I'll send them a message, and I'm like, you know, as a fellow CEO, frankly, I'd like to connect with you because of these reasons. But
272 hits.
So I thought you'd want to know that, you know, you might want to correct this little typo. I'm sure that your assistant didn't notice it. And I say it like that, right? Give them a little bit of an out. I'm sure your assistant didn't notice it. So your profile purpose is to give people an overview. Paul Gerarda, sweet guy. UI interface, user interface design. Now he's got UI here. Why does he need user interface? Do you all know, before I said those words, what UI meant?
No.
Yes.
But maybe you're, you know, putting up a new website or you're trying to do a new program and you need somebody who does user interface design. So right next to UI is the user interface, right? So acronyms can kill you. They can help, but they can also help. It's the avoidance thing. People will avoid finding you because you don't show up in the searches. You got to fit in. And his summary, what motivates me is impacting the performance and bottom line profitability of any business software through effective user interface design. The projects I and my team work on are typically mission critical with little margin for error. A non-optimized workflow, a lag in application performance, or software that users can't easily understand translates into dollars lost. However, a well-designed application increases efficiency, decreases cost, reduces user churn, and improves brand and perception. That's exciting stuff. Now, if I'm looking for user interface design and I read that, that's the guy I want to hire. He's passionate about it.
Didn't you write his profile?
I did write his profile. Yes, I did. So the other purpose, now here is, here's a couple of things. Now here's the difference between recommendations and endorsements with the obnoxious blue box. Now the obnoxious blue box is the box that I hate, that I'm sure we all hate, that when you go look at somebody's profile you're connected to, they have, hey, does Lori have these skills? Fine, here's how they do it. First, if you have skills in common with the person you're looking at, they offer you those. Do they have these skills in common? Do they have these skills that you share? Then they'll go to the most recommended skills, the most endorsed skills. And then after you've gone to Mike's profile, because you're sick of seeing that blue box and you really want to get rid of it and you don't endorse all 50 of his skills, you know they come back with a keyword pulled out of his profile and ask you if he has those skills too. And then when he goes to log in, he says, hey, people have endorsed you for these new things. Do you want to put them in your profile? Okay, we have to get rid of 12 of the other ones first. I'm like, what? But it's big data, and it's building big data so that it makes this program more efficient for us to use, even though it's annoying as heck. And they've gotten over 1 billion in the first 4 months that's been active. Now, what I would have done differently had they said, we're going to ask people to endorse you for these skills, I would have put them in order of importance to me. I, the LinkedIn diva, entered the skills in the order I thought of them. Social media marketing came first. I think LinkedIn was like number 9 or 10. And now LinkedIn is still number 9, 10, or 11 down there somewhere. I am not being endorsed for LinkedIn very often. But what the heck?
You can't change the order?
You can change the order, but what we have to do is go in and hide some endorsements so that you move them around. There's a lady who was a photographer. Most of her profile talks about her being a photographer. Now she's in business development, and those are the things she wants to be endorsed for. All of her photographer friends are being asked to endorse her for photography because that's the skills that they share. So we hit it. And then we put all the business development stuff up, and then we called her current coworkers and some of her clients on the phone and said, I'm gonna send you an email with a link to my profile. Would you scroll down, and she moved the skills and endorsements up, would you scroll down to the skills and endorsements and specifically endorse these particular things? I mean, that's labor intensive, but in her case it works.
How do you hide industry partners, what you're saying?
How do you hide industry partners?
Yeah, like people in my same industry, so that other things that are more productive come up to the top.
You have to just hide the skill. I just, in her case, we just hid all of the recommendations for everything related to photography and her previous life, and left all the other endorsements. And then over a weekend, came in and asked people, friends and coworkers to endorse these new skills, so that the number of
So you
endorsements.
temporarily hid the skill
Yeah,
until it got
Yeah.
upgraded, okay. I got you.
exactly, and
I
then you
got
can show them again. But how powerful is this? Now, he's been endorsed 74 times for human resources, 44 for personnel management, 40 for strategy, organizational development, leadership. Or Brian Glade is one of the leading experts on global talent and human capital issues. Business and HR leaders regularly rely on Brian's advice and expertise for their worldwide HR needs. I relied heavily on Brian's advice and network as our organization brought up a facility in India. He is the face of SHRM globally, and his network and influence is broad. Blah, 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 go on. Right, so Kathy works with another company, and she's very well respected in her community. This is for, Brian Glade, by the way, is an association business development guy. He works with an executive recruiting firm association. And so these are the recommendations, and these are the things that build that credibility and value. And as much as we all hate the blue box, one of the first things we do when we go look at somebody's profile is we scroll down and we see that they've got a lot of endorsements, and we feel better about them, right? So even though we hate that obnoxious blue box, the result is still more credibility. So learn to love the box, or close it, which is frankly what I do most of the time. So the third one is contact information. Now, this information will show when you're directly connected to somebody. By the way, has anybody gotten endorsements from people they don't know and you're wondering why? Okay, don't ever say, I'm getting endorsements from people I don't know. Why are they endorsing me? Here's why. You're gonna look like a fool. Okay? And the reason is, you can only be endorsed by people who are directly connected to you. So if you're directly connected and you're wondering who these people are, the next question out of somebody's mouth or running through their mind is, then why'd you connect to them? Right? So it's not good. There's no good reason to say those words, so we're not gonna say them anymore, are we? I'm trying not to. I really am. So people can see your LinkedIn, your Twitter, your website, but only people you're connected to can see this information. So because you put your address, your email, your phone number here, you might also put it in contact you for these things and put it in the contact information box. Do you guys know where I'm talking about? It's at the bottom of your profile, and it says give people advice on how and why and when to connect with you. And it's called the contact information. If you're planning, developing, now remember Paul is the executive at the UI Catalyst Resources. If you're planning, developing, or already in market with a SaaS offering or RIA application, and you'd like to explore whether your company is a candidate for Catalyst Resources, not if we can help you or if we can sell to you, but if your company is a candidate because they choose their projects wisely. SaaS and UI design services, call me or my team at 1-800 or email info@. Now, how many of you know that Paul does not answer the phone or check that particular email box? Right, so any executives in the room, some things you can do is put, I'm looking forward to networking with my peers. Or if you're in the market for, or if I can help you in such way. Here and at the bottom of your summary, you're gonna put a call to action to say who should contact you, why they should contact you, and how they should contact you, maybe even when. So, next we have fitting in. Business development, marketing manager, association, What are the keywords, what are the words that people use to find you? How do you know? A great place to start is to look at your current website and the keywords that you're using for your website, or that the SEO people have developed for your website. But you know what, those are the professional words. A great thing to do is ask brand new clients, or people that you're talking to that you have not yet done business with or have not yet become members, and ask them this: when you think of me, or you think of us, our company, our association, what do you think of? If you were gonna search for somebody like us on Google, what would you put in that search box? Those are really critical. Because then the people who don't know what you do, but think that they need you, will find you. So, fitting in with keywords, that's great. Now you've shown up in the search results. How do you get selected from the list of search results? I already told you one thing, the little Turner box. You stand out. You also stand out with a great headline like you saw with Paul. You also can stand out with a conversational tone and feeling personal and approachable. You probably don't want that pretty board picture with the chalky background that you use for the About Us page on the website or hanging on the wall of the building. No. This is a networking environment. You don't dress up with chalk when you go to a networking event. So, dress the same way you would to a business function. Be approachable. How many of you remember when Barack Obama was a presidential candidate? He allowed connection with 26,000 people on LinkedIn. And I know that number is pretty close because he accepted Mike's invitation, and Mike had 24,000 connections at the time that Barack Obama was above him. And sometime during that summer, as it was still a presidential candidate, Mike's network grew past 26,000, and the day he passed him, he saw, because he was checking every day, it was annoying as hell. He saw, hey, I passed Barack Obama today. Now that was a happy man doing the happy dance when he passed the presidential candidate, right? But what does that tell you? He connected to 26,000 people. You think he knew all 26,000? Presidential candidate is out there shaking hands and kissing babies and saying yes. He also did this on Twitter. He followed everybody who followed him. His team followed back everybody who followed him. Why? Hillary Clinton had 1 million+ followers on Twitter too. And you know how many she followed?
No.
16.
0.
Wow.
A big goose egg. Who won? I mean, that's an obvious question now, right? But think about it. She's broadcasting. I have information for you. I am smarter than you. Don't talk to me. I'm not listening. He's approachable. Even his picture seems approachable, right? So really good lessons. When you have somebody out there that you admire, they're doing really well, look at it and say, why is it that they're doing well? What is it that attracted me to their profile? What do I like about what they're doing? And those are how you are each going to define your own best practices, because Mike and I can share them with you all day long, but we're not living in your shoes. And I've helped clients and consulted with clients, and I'd give one client a particular piece of advice, and the next client I would say something a little bit different. Why? Different situations, right? Financial services, there are things I will not tell you to do. In fact, there are things I will tell you not to do so you don't get kicked off completely by your employer. So we're going to stand out with style. The profile template, here we are, is how many of you have employees that are good writers? Couple? Are all of your employees good writers? Your sales team?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Fairly not. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to help our employees become brand ambassadors for us by providing them with a template. And the template's going to have some stuff in it for their summary. It's going to connect them to the company page. You're going to optimize your company page because some of your employees are going to go copy-paste that information to their profiles. And for as long as they have their profile, which is longer than they're going to work for you, they're going to have that information on their company, on their personal profiles. And that is the information that people will believe to be true about your company. So if they don't have great profiles, creating a template, giving them suggested language really will help create a consistent message for your company, and they'll say, thanks for the head start. Now, feel free not to use this or to copy paste it or to put it in your own words, but here's some suggested language we hope you'll be able to use. Here's a place for you to get started in writing your own profile. And then you can give them access to the lessons. So, serves as a brand ambassador. If you share optimized text. Now, Mike did did a gig for Statara just before I joined the team. And Statara in Denver is a Microsoft Office Solutions, a Microsoft Solutions provider. And when you did a search on LinkedIn for Microsoft, just Microsoft, nobody at Statara showed up. And how big was the company?
It was a Microsoft solution provider,
Thank you,
What
Microsoft
we
Solutions
searched on.
provider. And how big was the company?
290 employees on LinkedIn.
Nobody showed
Not a
up.
single hit. They're the #1 Microsoft solution provider in Colorado, and not a single person at the company
Which,
had those 3 words in that order, and that's the official name for it.
right. So the interesting thing is that that might not be a problem for them back then. You bet it is now. If we hadn't helped them change it, their competitors would have crept their market share. So sharing optimized text, and it's typically done by the marketing department as opposed to tech or HR or sales. And a lot of times when we're working with companies and associations to do the language and to get the profile template developed and everything, we work with the marketing department, but then we also bring in customer service, because that's a big one. People don't think customer service, but if you've got a customer service department, whoever's leading that department needs to be involved in the message, because they're the ones talking to the customers every day. Also, your sales leaders, executive teams should buy in, right? So if you can find a champion and rubber stamp that approval, you're gonna be doing a lot better. So real life example, we did profiles for executives at TAB, the Alternative Board, which is an association, peer-to-peer mentoring for the most part for small businesses. And they have franchisees and they have members. Before we started any work, none of their traffic came from LinkedIn according to the Google Analytics. 0 traffic from LinkedIn. Within 45 days of completing the work and getting it posted on LinkedIn, 36% increase in their web traffic to their website, and 32% of it came from LinkedIn, which tells me that people went to their site from LinkedIn. Other people went later, or they went back, but they went directly to the website. So these are the guys. Here's the executive team. They're still looking pretty good, and poor old Dave. At the time, you could put up a 4 megapixel, 400 by 400 picture, but it only showed it 80 by 80, and he's never updated his picture, so you have to pay attention to what your profile looks like. Because things can change. And you go in one day and you got an itty-bitty picture like that, and it's awfully cute, but it's not credible, right? Chief Innovation Officer, improving market awareness through the use of technology. President and CEO, the Alternative Board. TAB World Headquarters, Business Development and Growth Advisor. Chief Innovation Officer, the Alternative Board. Business Strategist, Coach, Motivational Speaker. So those aren't my title at my company, for the most part. Those are, what value do you bring the person who's about to read your profile? Who should read your profile should be in your headline. Is it what you do? Is it who you serve? Is it where you are? Those are the kinds of questions you want to answer. So are you LinkedIn? Who here feels like they're LinkedIn? Cool. Got plenty. The rest of you have some work to do. And those of you who think you do, after you see the how-to lessons that we're going to share with you, please polish a little bit more. We are never done with our profiles. Things change. Even the way I say things sometimes changes. So always be LinkedIn. Here's your company page, or a company page on LinkedIn, and this is how you're connected. When I look at Megapath, I have 9 first-degree connections, 311 second-degree connections, and 758 total employees on LinkedIn. If Megapath is a customer that I want to be my customer, maybe they're not a customer yet, I'm going to follow their company so that I can see what they're saying, and I can be connected. Now, up here it says 2,364 followers. That's in blue. That means that Megapath and anybody can click on that box and see who's following their company. Remember that tightening of the social graph? If I'm working in a particular industry, I'm going to find every single company in my regional area, and I'm going to follow all of them in that industry, because it will tighten my social graph for that industry in my region. Does that make sense to everybody?
Are you saying that when you click on there, it kind of attaches you, is what you're saying?
So if I click here, it shows me who the followers are, but that yellow button that says follow, when I follow that company, it makes me one of the followers, and it continues to strengthen my social graph, kind of like my own spider web. I'm the spider, and I feel something on the web happening. When they're putting up status updates, I'm paying attention to their status updates, because as soon as they're saying that they're unleashing a new website, I want to know about it. Because I want to call them and say, I see you've pushed out a new website. Have you thought about updating your language and your message on your social media profiles? We've got a team that can help you with that. Right, so it shows me opportunities that come up. And if people are searching for people in that industry, I've got more opportunity to show up because I'm tightening that graph, tightening the web. So, your network. Mike talked about this morning. Marketers in particular either say, I'm going to build a big network, or I'm not. And they have how did this guy phrase it the other day? He looked at somebody's profile and he said he had a respectable 234 connections. Or adequate, that was the word used, an adequate 234 connections. And I thought, I don't want to be adequate. I want to be the best. I don't want somebody, and frankly, we have CEOs, people we've been talking to for 5 years, that call Mike and say, dude, I've got a bunch of business cards on my desk. Can you log into my account and send a connection request to all these guys so I can get above 500 plus, so I don't have to be embarrassed at the next CEO meeting I have? Because their friends are riding their tail, right? And it's a perception thing. It's how you look. I mean, you guys all look great today. Did you notice I had my jacket off before I started talking today? And I put it back on because I want to. It's the appearance. It's how I look. Now, if I want to get a little bit more casual, I'll take my jacket off. Frankly, this top looks better with my jacket on. So, and I know.
I agree, you don't have to see as much of it.
Yeah.
Lori, will you explain the significance of 500?
So,
She has an unbelievable shirt collection. You should see the stuff you can't see because she's wearing this today. She's unbelievable.
I've been on the road for a while, and I pack, and I want, it's really a pain in the butt to lug luggage around, especially when you're using one hand on a walking stick. So I have one suitcase and I have a duffel, and my briefcase fits in my duffel. So I carry 3 Diva tops, 2 of them orange.
500. Explain the
500.
significance of
The
500.
significance of
500 tops?
No, I'm not a clothes horse. I've got
It is
maybe
tops
a dozen
in one regard.
Diva tops.
It is. That's what you'll hear. It is tops, isn't it?
What?
500 is tops in one way on LinkedIn.
It shows you once you hit 500, when you hit 501 connections, it goes to 500 plus. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
It's
So-
not showing the exact number.
When I first joined LinkedIn, it told you how many connections people had, and I saw Ron Bates, who had 24,000 plus connections at that time, and I thought, there is no way that somebody could know 24,000 people. He's full of crap. So they went to 500 plus. And, that number didn't seem to scare anybody. Now, when I joined LinkedIn, I had 6,700 people in my Outlook database, people I'd done business with over the last 10 years. And I didn't think to invite them to LinkedIn, and not too long after I joined LinkedIn, they made it so that you could only invite 3,000 people, so I was kind of out of luck. But this is the thing, I'm connected to a person. That person, say I'm connected to Mike. Mike's a person in my network. He's got 30,000 first level connections. That puts him on my second level. Now I have 30,000 people and one on my network. You know what though? Those 30,000 people have an average of 250 people each. And what that translates to is 7 million. Now I am become a bigger fish, but I am just a fish. I want to go fishing in the biggest pond possible. So even if I'm not comfortable connecting to people I don't know, I will find people that I respect that have large networks, and I will connect to them. The very first time we spoke in Atlanta as the LinkedIn Rockstars, the very first thing we did as soon as we knew we were going to be coming, was go out and search Atlanta in particular industries, in particular titles, and sorted by number of connections, and invited those people to join our network with a simple message. We're going to be coming to town. If you're available, we'd love to connect with you in person. But in the meantime, let's connect on LinkedIn. We're really impressed that you've got such a strong showing, such a strong network in the area, and we'd like to get to know you. And they look at our profiles, and we had strong networks too, and we looked credible, and we're coming to speak. We might actually meet them in person. So you know what they all said? Sure. I mean, they're open networkers, right? They've got large networks. So by doing that, we expanded our second and third level connections by connecting to the most connected people. Mike's dad has more connections now. At one time, he just had Mike as his connection. He had 5 million people in his network. And if I'm in business development and marketing and sales, outward facing, trying to bring dollars in the door, what happens when you're done selling to your family and friends? You gotta put more prospects in your pond. I'm gonna stock that pond as much as possible. The groups is really cool. If you live in Denver, Colorado, and you join the Link to Denver group, there are more than 30,000 members in that group. Join one group, 30,000 new people in your network, and can find you when they do a search on LinkedIn for somebody who looks like you. So those are some really powerful ways to build your network. And what do you do with it? The most important thing for you is your headline, summary, interest groups, and company page. And if you're using Twitter, have your Twitter connected. And why is it the most important place for you? Because when Mike and I are training sales teams or marketing teams or business development people, we say when you look up somebody on LinkedIn, these are the things you need to look at. Your headline, is it credible? Your summary, is it first person, is it conversational, is it consistent, does it tell you who they are, what they're looking for, how you might be able to help them? Your interests, because when I connect to somebody who owns a Mustang, frankly, I love U2, it's one of my favorite bands. And I did a search once on Under a Blood Red Sky. There were 3 people on LinkedIn who had the phrase Under Blood Red Sky in their profile. Me, the photographer and the videographer that were at that show in Red Rocks in the early 80s that filmed and photographed that show. And now I have original photographs. Because Greg, who was in California, happened to be in Denver when I found him. And I said, would you like to meet a tribute band? They're playing at the Dove Underground next Friday night. They're one of the best tribute bands for U2 I've ever seen. And he said, I'd love to meet them. And he came out and he's talking to them. I introduced him to the guys. I felt like the hero. He gave me a photograph, which I sealed in. I still have. It's amazing. And Twitter, we do radio shows, right? When I have somebody on the radio show, one of the first things I do is go look at Twitter just before I call them to see what they were talking about. Do y'all know who Jim Fowler is? There's no reason you should. Just saying. He is the founder of Jigsaw. He sold Jigsaw to Salesforce.com for $400 million. We asked him to interview on our radio show. He said yes. We had literally spent months trying to find a date when the 3 of us were available. We snagged him on Memorial Day, that Monday. Mike and I were moving from Denver to Minnesota, and we were in a parking lot of a Burger King tapping into their Wi-Fi network on Skype doing an interview with Jim Fowler and our producers on the other end. And I opened up Twitter. Jim Fowler's last tweet was that Friday before. So Friday before Labor Day, Memorial Day, and this is Monday. His last tweet said, last day at Jigsaw, surreal. Because when he sold the company, he agreed to work for the company for another year to help the transition. And Friday was his last day, and we finally were able to connect with him on Monday, Memorial Day. And my producer was beside himself ecstatic that we were doing the very first radio interview for this guy. And that's still one of our highest rated shows, our most listened to show. Because people wanted to know what that was like.
The best part about having a radio show is the guests you get on the show and the relationship you have with the guests. It's less about the audience, frankly, than it is about the intimacy that you have with the guests and the things you do afterwards, because they want to know when it's going to air and what the date, the URL, and all that, and you now have a relationship with them. You tweet about it, you friend about it, you do all those sorts of things. Anyway.
Exactly. So now, here's what I want you to do. Talking about building membership and community. You kind of get the whole building your social graph and tightening it. And what I want you all to do is think about your best 5 customers, your best 5 members. And I want you to look at their LinkedIn profiles for all of these reasons. All of these areas. 5 people, look at all those areas. What do they have in common? Because what I'm looking for is like people kind of hang together. And if they all have something in common, there's likely to be more people out there like them. Are they in the same groups? Do they share the same interests? What do they say in their summary that they're passionate about? What, are they all connected to the company page? Do their companies have something in common? What does their headline say? What are they tweeting about? What's familiar? Then you go look at their profiles and you say, people similar to Jeffrey. Now that's convenient, isn't it? Here's Jeffrey, he's one of my top prospects. And here, LinkedIn is providing me other people who are similar to Jeffrey based on the information he's put in his profile. That's pretty cool. I can start right there looking for people who might be new members. Now, for those of you who are trying to recruit memberships, is it the companies that are members or the people that are members?
People.
People. And people who work at the companies and companies that have people. So this is really a great place to start. And when I go look at their company page, frankly, if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll say other companies, that people that do, or similar companies, so the same thing is on the company page. That's brilliant. And notice that there's a little arrow right there. So I can look at those four and keep going. And what I do is I right-click my mouse and choose open in a new tab. And we had the conversation about why I have so many tabs. This is one reason, because I don't want to lose Jeffrey. He's the gold mine. He's where I'm starting, so he's the center of the wheel. I want to open up 5, 10 more of these people and find out now what is it that they have in common with, and would they be a good target? Next, I'm going to go down and look at who also viewed. People also viewed. So if people are looking at Jeffrey and they're looking at John and Dan and Chris and Jeff, why are they looking at these people? What is it? Do they work at the same company? Are they in the same group? Why is it that people look at these people as well? Now, what I was able to do for a photographer in Lynchburg, Virginia, when I was in Lynchburg, Virginia, my family is there this summer. I'm doing a cover photo I already had a cover photo for a magazine that I'm being featured in July, commemorating my 3-year experience with RA and how to use professional networking for personal quality of life. And I asked my network for a photographer who could do the editorial shoot for the inside. And I found a guy. And I started mentioning him on LinkedIn, thanking him. I started posting in the Facebook group where I found him, which is the Lynchburg Chamber of Commerce. I lived there long enough to go through a leadership program before Mike moved me away to Denver. And he started showing up on my other people view. Now here I am with one of the heaviest visited profiles on LinkedIn, and there's Tim. His profile views went through the roof. He said people are looking at my profile like there's nobody's business, right? And I put his profile in the Facebook group. I was talking about him. I had it on Twitter. Here's where you can find this guy. He was great. He's an amateur photographer. Does great work. If you need somebody and you need to keep it affordable, you can call Tim. He became part of my immediate social graph. That's what these two areas are. Who is closest to Jeffrey? Who's most like him? And then who else are the people looking at when they look at Jeffrey? Those are really cool places for you guys to find potential members and figure out what is it that is in common. Because if you can be specific with what you're looking for, then you will sell more memberships. You know, on our profile, we talk about that we do sales training for mid-market companies. You know, that doesn't stop our mid-market technology companies. That has not stopped the HR people. That has not stopped the recruiting community. That has not stopped the health information management associations. That hasn't stopped other people who we don't talk to from calling us. Because because I have an exact target, and sometimes when I'm writing my profile, I think of who, I will write my profile for you. And everybody else in the room will feel as I'm talking to them. Because specific sells. If you get specific with people, they can imagine themselves in that place. So that's what I'm writing my profile for. Now, LinkedIn groups, when you search Association of Executive Search Consultants, Executive Search Network, New Steps Senior Executives. Okay, so the same search that you run on profiles and on company pages, you can run on groups, and you can find groups that are related to your industry or to your whatever it is that you're doing. Now, should you have a group? Depends. How many members do you have? And are you associated with the national chapter? Maybe there's a national chapter that has a group already, and there's enough room for them to have subgroups. There's a limit on how many subgroups you can have in a group. I think it's 20, but I'd have to double check that number now. But notice that when I'm looking at the group profile, here's members, here's an information button, here's a share button, and there's a join button. About the group, other groups, similar groups, other people viewed or other people are also members of these other groups. So all of that Amazon kind of language is all over LinkedIn as well. So being social. You know, I do a search on a regular basis for the head word LinkedIn. I am the LinkedIn diva. I want to find out if I show up at the top of the list. I better. So I'm always making sure that I'm hovering right around there. Now, Reid Hoffman, who's credited with creating the LinkedIn program, it being his brainchild, he shows up in the search too. On good news days, where he's mentioned in the news, he shows up on page 1. On days that he's not mentioned in the news, he shows up on page 3. Why the difference?
Organic searches.
Yeah, organic searches and stuff. People are looking for Reid Hoffman, right? But he shows up for the word LinkedIn because he's got LinkedIn in his profile too. So he's got the keywords, and then when he gets the traffic, he shows up. So here's how you get more traffic to your profile so that you'll show up in more search results, and how you engage people on LinkedIn so that they'll want to engage with you, learn more about you, and either do business with you or become a part of your membership and part of your community. First of all, you listen. When you get into a group, here's we'll do a daily routine in a little bit, but here's part of the daily routine. You click on your home page where your network updates are happening, people who are in your network are posting updates, and you click or comment on 5 of them a day. Just kind of scroll down till you find, surely you can find 5 that you could say like. So people know you're listening. You do that in a couple of groups each day. If you've got 15 groups, then maybe 2 groups a day, go in and just scroll down the discussion board and like and comment on a couple of discussions, because then people will believe that A, you showed up, they know you exist, and they know you're listening. Now when it's your turn to post, you know, people are going to listen to your post too. And frankly, the people who you've been posting for a lot, or the people who meet those targets that seem like people that would be good people to be in your member base or in your target list for your sales team, I reply privately to them. I send them a message and I say, you know, I posted this discussion in this group that we're both a member of. And I've been noticing the things that you've been sharing and commenting and things on, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on this particular content. Would you mind, here's the URL for this post, would you mind commenting, sharing your thoughts with me? You know, a lot of people do it. And guess what? All of a sudden, your post, instead of being nothing, no likes, no discussions, no comments, it's just there. People start trafficking, people start visiting. And then when they visit that, they want to see who wrote the post, so they click through to your profile and they learn more about you. They click through to your company page and they learn more about your company, and they say, why am I not a member of this organization? Look at the value that they could be giving me. Doesn't that make sense? Right? So, we're going to discuss, like, comment, and post, but we're going to do it kind of in that order. Like and comment publicly first, and then post your stuff. Let people know you're listening before you start to talk. Now, here's a brilliant thing. If you're trying to get a hold of a member and invite them to join your organization or to learn more or have a conversation with them, that's usually the best first step. Have a conversation with them about how you might help them, or about something specific, or whatever the case may be. When you go to the group, there's, again, the number of members. And when you click on the number of members, it brings you to the member tab. They kind of hit it now. And you can see who the week's top influencers are, who's talking the most. You want to connect to these people. They're active. They're going to drive traffic. These are influencers. And you want to go find out what they're talking about. But notice here, I did a search. Now there are 30,000 connections in the Link to Denver group. I put the term VP. I didn't even put and Vice President and all the other stuff that I could have done. And there are 28,300 people. 30,000 people in a group, 28,000 have the letters VP together in the profile, somewhere. But what I do then is I keep narrowing it down. So I might go by industry, but I don't click this little advanced search box because that takes me to the full search and out of the group. But you can, in the group, search for people's names or keywords, and you can find people in the group that match that description. Now here, Mark Dreher, I can follow him, I can see his activity, I can invite him to connect, or I can send him a message. So a second level connection is kind of like a kissing cousin. First degree connections, if we were first degree connections, I could send him a message right from his profile or from my wherever, lots of places. But if we're not connected, he's a second, I can send him a message from within the group. That's really powerful. Now here's how I used it. I wanted to join the beta group on LinkedIn for the company pages. A friend of mine was a member, and I asked him who led the group, and he sent me a link to the group. So I found the group manager, who happened to be the company page marketing manager for LinkedIn. And I went and looked at the other groups she was a member of until I found one that she was active in. See where it says I can see their activity? So I looked at their activity, right here under their name, I can follow or see activity, okay? And that brings me to another screen that allows me to see what they've been posting or where they've been commenting. And I noticed that she had, in this one particular group, commented on a couple of posts that people had put up. So I went to those because it shows you activity and gives you a link right to that discussion. And I went to those discussions and I commented after her and said how much I enjoyed LinkedIn company pages. I was glad that they had them, and here's why I liked them. And one thing I thought they could do better. Then I sent her a note, because when you're looking at the discussion, it says reply privately. And I sent her a note and I said, Lana, I see you're the company page product marketing manager. Really nice to meet you here in this particular group. I love what you guys are doing about company pages. And I shared my thoughts on this discussion, but here's what I shared and why. You know, 72 hours, within 72 hours of learning who the person was, I was asked to be a member of the group. Right, it was by invitation only. The same thing I've done with prospects. We have a prospect, I want to get in, I find them in a group, find out where they're talking, where they're active, where they're paying attention, where their eyeballs are, and I engage them in the group. And then I use comments in the group and personal replies, private replies, to engage them personally about something that they believe is of value. Make sense? So, click. There we go. So, brand ambassadors. Your employees, your members, are all brand ambassadors. And I think Mike spoke about this a little bit this morning, but they will help you get the word out. When you post an update on your company page, your employees can share it right from the company page. So I'll tell you about a tool in a couple minutes that can help you with that. But your employees can help share that. So what I do manually is post an update, send a message out to my employees with a link to the company page and say, please share this with your network today. There's a tool called Gaggle Amp, GAGGLEAMP.com. If you have a membership base or you have employees, you can use that to have them connect to the Gaggle so that when you put the update out on your company page, it can automatically send it out to their networks. They just give you permission to do that. And we're just about done. So, do you guys blog? There's another tool called Triber that will get you to, I'm going to skip a couple slides here. There's another tool called Triber, T-R-I-B-E-R-R.
Spell it again?
T-R-I-B-E-R-R, try with 2 R's on the end.
Okay.
And you can share other people's content, so you can find people who are talking about your topic and share their blog posts and invite them to share yours. Now, the 4 major networks, unlike some people that don't believe Facebook is part of it, Twitter is for promoting and building conversation, finding people, random people. We were actually invited, one of the days we spent in New York was to the Real-Time Marketing Lab. She learned we were going to PivotCon by Twitter and sent us an open invitation on Twitter to come to her event as well, which was the day before at the same venue. Brilliant. Facebook is for people. If you're talking about people, and you're talking about people on a human level, Facebook's a great place. Google Plus is for people's passions. If your business or your association is about people's passions, you need to have a community on Google Plus, or page on Google Plus. Because that's where people go to find other people who are interested in the same things they are. Again, LinkedIn is professional. So Twitter, your conversation on Twitter should mirror your conversation on Facebook and LinkedIn and everywhere else. Okay?
Hey, can they all post together?
No, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's
Sort
really
of, but
frustrating.
Gagalamp will allow people to automatically post what you post out. I found with Gagalamp that not only is it providing people with great content and different content to share, but it's also increasing their influence. So if you look at cloud scores, people's cloud scores go up as a result of sharing because they've got more diverse content. They're not just talking about themselves anymore.
Well, on the share thing, can't you click, share to everybody or share to everybody plus Twitter?
Right, yes, you can, absolutely. So when you're posting your own or your company page update, you can share it to Twitter as well. And I always encourage people to share it to Twitter because you can't, it's hard to talk too much on
It's just
Twitter.
that Facebook don't talk to LinkedIn.
Right, LinkedIn and Facebook don't talk
They
to
don't
each other.
talk to each other.
So, anyway, anybody want to be a thought leader? There is one thing you have to do. Anybody know what it is?
Maybe a thought leader.
You have to share your thoughts, not just think. You have to tell people what you think. If you don't tell people what you think, how are they going to know? And frankly, if you just talk about yourself all the time, that's not going to make you a thought leader. That's going to make you a gimper. Right? So when we started and we were trying to think, what else can we talk about on Twitter or on Facebook, we decided to share great content from other LinkedIn professionals, people who are doing LinkedIn like we were. If we didn't tell, we literally had clients call that said, I noticed you don't say anything about Wayne. Is there a reason? I say yes. And he said, can you share that with me? And I say, well, he doesn't have any content I think is worth sharing. I don't agree with his practices. And that's really the only reason I don't share about him. Frankly, he'll get you kicked off LinkedIn because he advises that you put keywords in your name field. But aside from that, no, he's a good guy. But I'm not going to share stuff. We don't let people in our group that have other things in their name field because we don't want other people to see it and think it's a great idea. It's really that important to me. And so people, I literally know now, Mike and I are literally known as the people that other people go to learn LinkedIn. We're the people that train the LinkedIn professionals. So you have to be a thought leader. And you can share your thoughts on Twitter. And there's some examples here of how it all goes. And I'm just about out of time. So I'm going to skip through to the best practices. Find, engage. This is how you can use LinkedIn and social media. You can find people, you can engage them, you can research them, and you can, here wait for it, ask for referrals. It's perfectly acceptable practice to ask for referrals. You might say, I'm looking for new members, and we're looking for this kind of person. Now, I might be that kind of person that you're telling me you're looking for, and that's okay, but we're looking for this kind of person. We're wondering, we know that you're a leader in your industry, we're wondering if you had anybody that you could refer to us. I might answer with, you can start with me. We've gotten that response. You can start with me, no, I don't know anybody, or you can start with this person, here's their phone number. All kinds of responses have come in. So, routine, in the morning, every morning, check your inbox, go down your homepage, click like, comment on 4 or 5, 6 different comments and discussions or updates that people are doing. Do a couple of groups a day. Set your timer for 5 minutes so you know what 5 minutes feels like, and then you don't get lost in it and say, I can't do that anymore. I was just sucked into LinkedIn for 4 hours. Trust me, it happens. So the most important thing though is your LinkedIn inbox. And then ad hoc, like Mike said this morning, have a LinkedIn session open all the time, so when somebody calls, you can say, could you spell your name for me real quick? I wanna look you up on LinkedIn so I get a better idea of who it is I'm talking to, so I can find out how I can serve you better. And people will always say, oh, no, look at my LinkedIn profile. No, really, I won't embarrass you. It's like, probably because I'm LinkedIn, but.
Now, LinkedIn knows Bob and Robert, and Mike and Michael, and, you know, things like that, but it doesn't necessarily know Pete and Peter. There's really ones that it should know that it doesn't,
Right.
and nicknames, and Johnny
Sometimes
and
it
John.
doesn't.
and-
So if you do Ray, and it doesn't show any Raymonds in the list, you can probably guess that they're not gonna show Raymonds and have to be out separately.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, 5 to 20 minutes in the afternoon. Afternoon, you usually have a little bit more time. Some tools, LinkedIn Ad Network, and I promised you this morning I was gonna show you that, and I'm gonna do a live demo while we're having snacks. But joinia.com is our LinkedIn group, and you'll get a copy of these slides, joinia.com. Now, think about that. That will take you to our LinkedIn group. That's linkedin.com/group/something or other. Or I could tell people joinia.com. So using a vanity URL to redirect people to a more complicated, more complex site works really well. Triber.com, Knowem.com, KNOWEM.com will allow you to find your name if your name is available on a bunch of social networks. So before you get started, you know, claiming your name on 3 networks and you find out it's not available on Twitter, you know, or it's not available on LinkedIn. So that's a great place. And followgen.com, follow GEN, is a targeted engagement for Twitter. So if you're using Twitter, it will go out and like or favorite a tweet from somebody based on keywords. And a lot of times that person will reach out, engage with you, follow you. It's a great way to do some targeted network building.
I have a quick question about Twitter because I know that we don't have a ton of time, but most of the media is constantly talking about Twitter.
Right.
And we've been told in our community that virtually no one is using Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, that's what we've been told, right?
Well, there's another tool I'll tell you about called Twello, 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 like Yellow Pages, but with a T in front, TW, for Twello, for Twitter. Twitter Yellow Pages, and you can search by location, by industry, by keywords, and see who is active in the community, or do a random poll. But that's always, Mike and I used to go to
I
that
love
all the
Twello,
time.
yeah.
I still visit it quite a bit. So today we talked about, I mean, we covered a lot of stuff. Consistent activity, establish a routine. You will get a copy of the profile info guide and the group power user guide. We talked about a methodology. Build your profile first, then start building your network and engaging people. Because the moment you start building your network and engaging people, they're going to go look at your profile. You want to be dressed before you go to the party. And you know what? Just be who you are. One of my biggest status updates, most engaged status updates on LinkedIn was a couple Mondays ago when the Broncos played Monday Night Football. I think they were playing the Rams or something. Yeah. It wasn't important who they were playing. It was Monday Night Football and the Broncos won. I was all over it. Except I forgot it was Monday. Tuesday morning I woke up and I got to my client site and I looked and I said, oh my gosh, today's Tuesday. And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, damn it, I missed the football game last night. I said, can you give me just a minute? I got to update my status. So I come over to the thing and update my status update. Darn, missed the Broncos game, missed Monday Night Football. Wonder who won. Now I've got ESPN and College Pro, all kinds of stuff on my cell phone. I could look it up. I could Google it. I could call a friend and ask. And frankly, my friends are typically texting me and telling me who's winning the game anyway, because they know I'm avid football watching. And now all those guys in tight suits, so just all over it. So he goes, well, why'd you put it on a status update on LinkedIn? And I said, to give people an opportunity to tell me who won. Publicly, right? Because here's the thing. It's not about whether they buy from me. It's about whether they'll listen to me. It's not whether they talk to me. If I can get somebody to talk to me, I've started a conversation. We bumped into each other at one. Frankly, the other day I almost tripped somebody up on my walking stick, and I said, "I'm so sorry," and I stood up and I shook his hand. We introduced ourselves. Here's the head of marketing for CNBC. Wouldn't have known that had I not tripped him, right? And stood up and started talking to him. I mean, whatever it takes to start a conversation. If you have to use personal things, if you have to use business, if you have to use something wonky or something that makes people laugh, it doesn't really matter. All of that is content, and it starts with content that engages somebody, piques somebody's curiosity, and gets them to start talking to you. So just be who you are. And, you know, represent yourself. Now here, we've drawn a line in the sand, indicating that it's movable, right? We drew a line in the sand. I took a picture of Mike while he was getting his hair colored one night, and somebody else was doing it for him. He had foil in his hair. I said, "Can I take your picture?" He said, "Sure." Great. Cool. Hey, this is
It's
a good
worse
picture.
than that.
It gets worse. I said, "This is a cool picture. Can I put this on Facebook?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "Cool. All right." So I posted it up from my BlackBerry at the time to Facebook. The next day, Mike is looking at his Facebook. He's like, "Who said you could put this picture on Facebook? Why'd you put this picture on Facebook?" I said, "You said I could." So now, A, we're not allowed to post while we're drinking.
And you violate that.
I do violate that pretty often, because, you know, after my third bourbon, I've kind of forgotten the rules. But we're
Far
not-
from Lynchburg after all.
Exactly. So, and my mother goes, I'm living in Denver where the restaurants are called Blake Street Tavern. And my mom's like, "Why are you drinking all the time?" And I'm like, it's a restaurant. Rock Bottom Brewery, okay, it's a restaurant. So anyway, we decided that we would not tweet drunk, and we would ask before we posted things up, and if we took pictures, we would post them the next day. So if we take pictures at night, and we've been out drinking with friends, or we're doing business networking, and I've had 4 beers instead of 3, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to wait until tomorrow to post anything, because first of all, I'll sound more intelligent when I put whatever content I'm going to put with it. And that was our line that we drew in the sand. Pretty much everything else is as it goes. We have friends that have families. I've got a really good friend of mine in Denver, is very, very visible in public. And if you Google her name, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this woman, she's amazing." And all of you know who she is. And she has 2 kids, and you would not know it from Googling her. She's incredibly protective of her kids. She said, "I want to give them the opportunity to decide if they want to be in the public spotlight." Right? So whatever it is you decide, whatever line you draw, and wherever you draw it, decide now where you're going to draw it, so that when you get to it, you recognize it. And then you can decide, am I going to cross it this time or not? Or am I going to move the line because this is too restrictive? Or am I going to get more restrictive because I'm uncomfortable with that? Right? So just be who you are and work within the realm of what you consider good. And so remember the door prize. You get the free LinkedIn e-learning. It's IAU Express. After we upload your name and email, you'll get a email with login information. If you have any trouble, there's also a phone number on the email. And continued learning. There's profile fast track. There's profile examples, network building lessons, and company search lessons. There's also examples of company pages, and we're continuing to add to that. I'm going to leave the LinkedIn don'ts up and say thank you. Here, there's our phone number. Training@integratedalliances.com. It took me a while to find it. That's our Google Voice, 773-71-SASSY. Because I am a sassy, saucy businesswoman. Those are my 2 words. And it fits, right? And I'm going to go ahead and link this up. Our business cards are right here. I would love yours too. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, either I'll send you an invitation or send me an email. If you send me a LinkedIn invitation, I get about 500 weeks, so you'll scroll through that real fast. Just make sure you make it personal so my VA knows to accept and send you the thank you note. That's it. Any questions?
Okay, so,